these shows you see on TV. So again, it's nice that, but it's just a couple folks, so we can make it super personal, right? So what we're going to do is it's really, when you watch an HGTV show, a lot of people have, which you do obviously already, you see kind of an abbreviated version of what an actual project is, right? You have, you kind of start, you see the beautiful young couple, right? Somebody like myself comes up, typically we have like what appears to be like a design in our back pocket, right? And then we basically go over a plan real quick. There's a commercial break. We come back and maybe go on a field trip. It's fun, it's energetic, right? Maybe there's a little bit of demo. Maybe there's another commercial break. Y'all come on in if you'd like. We're just getting started. And then after that, basically, we're putting a couple of things on the shelf, and then it's basically over, right? And what have you really learned? Not a whole lot, right? So really what I wanted to do is take you through a number of different projects, kind of before, middle, and end, to kind of take you through our process of really what goes on behind the scenes. Sound good? And at any point, if you guys have any questions, feel free to just raise your hand. Hi, I'm Chip. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Awesome. So yeah, we're just going to jump right in. If you're not really familiar with the shows that we're on, I've been doing television for about 10 years or so. I've done a number of different television shows, about 14 or so, and on HGTV and the DIY network. So if you have any questions about renovation or building or design or any level of construction or how to fabricate something, any of that, I can be a great resource for you. Sound good? Awesome. All right. This is actually a recent series that we started with me and my wife. It's called Wise Buys. So it actually is a combination of real estate and design, but that's really what our business is. My business actually is called MR.GEEKMEOUT. We operate out of Atlanta, so I'm actually a native to Atlanta. We shoot most of our series there, but we kind of travel around and do some other things as well. Okay, let's kind of, I kind of want to talk to you guys real quick about this first graphic here, and then we're going to get into some projects. If you look at this graphic, this is actually from the National Association of Realtors. And if you look at it for a second, what do you notice? Anything stick out to you at all? Well, there's only one thing that's technically getting you 100% ROI or return on your investment, right? So everybody always asks me all the time, what room should I renovate, right? As if I have to hold it kind of out here. You can move up a little bit. So again, if you guys have probably asked this question before to one of your friends or maybe to your real estate agents or to a designer, what space should I be renovating, right? And the question is, if you're looking at this graphic, pretty much nowhere, right? Because if it's all about return on your investment, what are you really getting back from it? Right? So exactly, that's what this graphic tells you. You shouldn't really do much renovation. You should just be selling, right? Well, that's kind of a depressing outlook, isn't it? See, okay, so there's a question, but it's a great question, Hussein. Do people just focus on the ROI, or are they really focused on really wanting to live there? Now, I'm a huge advocate of making it much more personalized, making it somewhere where you really want to live. However, this is an average. This is what most people are doing. Why do you think that when people renovate their spaces, on average, they're not getting most of their money back? Do you have any idea? Typically worse at this the older and the more mature we get. You know why? Because we end up getting possibly a little bit more money, right? Where we think we can't, maybe we're not just going to do this whole thing ourselves. Maybe we're going to hire a general contractor. Maybe we're going to hire a designer. And this time, we actually have enough money to do something, legitimate. Let's just make it whatever we want, right? And so we're like, okay, this is getting exciting now. Where do we start? Well, we get online, we look at magazines, right? And we look at the cover of that magazine, and we're like, oh, this is beautiful. Let's see if we can't replicate something like this and put it into our space. But do you know that that is the approach that the average person is doing that gets that horrible return on their investment? And the reason is just because it looks like something that you may want doesn't actually mean that it's going to live correctly, that it's going to be a great layout, or that it even has any compatibility with your particular architecture, okay? And that's the huge piece that most people kind of do incorrectly. So what we actually have done and been most successful with is, instead of going directly to the aesthetic or the inspiration imagery that you see on the cover of magazines, that you see, online, and trying to kind of push those into our architecture, what we actually do is we actually subdue that a little bit. I don't even start looking at Pinterest, your Pinterest boards, your house idea books, and any of other styling until the last 20% of the design process. So what we're doing for the first 80% is really getting to know the types of things that are all about you. And this isn't just like, what is your favorite color? It has nothing to do with style. It has everything to do with lifestyle. Everything to do with function of how you actually want to live and what problems we're actually solving. And then the last 20%, we actually start rolling in some of those aesthetic pieces. Okay? So let's show you a couple of examples on how we actually do this. All right. Here's a before picture. I always show these before pictures to make sure that you guys realize that we're not just always renovating just beautiful, huge new houses, right? So you guys can probably relate to something like this, right? 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. Nothing too overwhelmingly spectacular. It was a couple. They had 2 children. So they had they each had a bedroom and they had the master bedroom. But they only had 1 bathroom, right? And in that 1 bathroom, there was only 1 pedestal sink. Alright, so I looked and we evaluated how can we get some value add in this structure. One of the biggest places where I'm doing a lot of extra renovation work is in master suites. It's probably one of the largest universal lifestyle pieces that's not in traditional architecture. And it's really what we're desiring, especially when we have young families. Come on in, guys. I'm Chip, by the way. Welcome. How are you? Good. So master suites are one of the hugest places where people are looking to actually change their lifestyle the most. So in this particular architecture, I try to really evaluate from a cost-effective standpoint really what is going to be the best place to do this renovation. Again, when I first meet them, I'm not looking at their Pinterest boards, I'm not looking at their house idea books, I'm not looking at their magazine clippings, right? What I'm looking at is actually the engineering aspect of creating what I call the initial canvas. What is that canvas that we're going to create that's going to be most cost effective to get the square footage, to get all the aspect ratios and the functional flow of the entire renovation, not upside down right out of the gate. Alright, now this takes a certain core level of proficiency to do this, right? My background is actually all in engineering. So I was a mechanical engineer. I studied at Georgia Tech a long time ago. But I was actually a structural engineer for a home builder when I started with HGTV 10 years ago. So with every single property that I actually approach it a little bit of a different way. I know how to construct things for a certain price and how to actually create that initial canvas before we actually start putting things inside. So what I know here is that I'm going to first say one of the easiest spots to renovate for a master suite typically is a finished basement or reallocating some square footage on the first floor. Well, this one had a crawl space, so that wasn't an option, right? That's typically never a cost-effective option to dig out a basement. So if that's kind of in your mind, people ask me all of that all the time too. Should I be digging out a basement, to be able to get some extra space? So no. The second was actually doing an addition out back, right? But this lot was actually very small, so that also wasn't a great option. So they said, well, Chip, we do actually have a little bit of space upstairs. So I don't know if y'all can really see that, but this is what their attic looked like, right? This is just a little ranch, a low slung roof. You guys can probably relate to this, right? Has anybody ever refinished an attic before? There's probably a good reason. It's a little bit more complicated than you might think, right? What are some things that are kind of unforeseen that most people might not be seeing here that makes it challenging? Sagging roof joists, okay. What about the actual floor itself? It looks like you could just slap some hardwood floors down up here and put some carpet up, right? And at least have some type of finished space. Well, truly, what's going on here is typically these areas aren't ever really provisionally finished spaces to begin with, right? So the ceiling of the main floor, those joists are typically not strong enough to actually be a floor, right? So there's a lot of kind of hidden things in here that make it complicated. And it's hot, right? And really, there's not that much usable space up here, right? It looks like there's all this potential where you might be able to make a room down the middle and then maybe make some angled storage down the side. But I'm telling you, if that's kind of your initial thought direction, you need to pause, right? But we need to think about actually creating the canvas to start with. It's one of the hugest things that we do where we become successful. So, okay, so I told you that you had $60,000 to create a full master suite, right? Money is no object in this conversation. This is all for just an example. What would you do to convert a room like this to a master suite? Takes plumbing. All right, let's talk layout first. Let's talk spatial. Let's talk spatial planning. Knock a hole in the roof. Okay, now why would you do that? So you can extend out. Okay. Now are we going to make an extension of the foundation, or are we just going to make something like a dormer? Do what? Well, no, I'm asking you guys because this is. I know the answer. I'm about to show you. You can maybe do a door. Okay, so this. What was your name? Karen had a great comment. She goes, well, for 60 grand you can't add on, right? And you might not even be able to put a dormer in, right? This is the mentality that makes renovation so stressful, right? Because really, as much as that could be true or not true at all, you in your mind are already resolving to a bad place, right? That may or may not actually be true. Now, you can do something for $60,000, but how can you not waste most of that $60,000 on renovating a good portion of an area in an attic space like this, where the end game is not that great, right? And that's what makes renovation stressful. So, kind of reaching out and finding this initial help, basically, to help you craft out what this canvas will be before you actually get started is one of the biggest things people don't ever do. It is the biggest mistake that most people make in their renovation processes. Now, what I'll tell you is most people, with this budget, because I've been in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homes, will end up breaking into a roof like this with a couple of dormers about 8 feet wide because they think that's all they can afford to do. And that's all that their general contractor maybe, that doesn't necessarily know anything about design, says, oh yeah, let's just slap a couple of dormers in here. We need some egress windows, to actually make it a bedroom and a closet. And then, we just kind of make do with the square footage that we have, right? Now, what if I told you that I could actually put in a 40-foot long dormer, the whole entire width of the house, for the same price as 2 8-foot dormers? Right? Right? Again, you didn't know that was possible, did you? So for the same price as putting in 2 little small dormers and creating a floor plan that was no good, I was able to transition this, put in a 40-foot wide dormer, and turn it into this. And this isn't TV magic. What this is real dollars with a plan and a knowledge of how to create an initial canvas that you didn't even think was possible, right? This is the difference of what I'm talking about. I'm going to show you example after example after example of this, right? If you were to redo that attic on your own, what would you have ended up with? It could have looked pretty for what it was, but what it actually was is just no good, right? So again, your neighbor down the street, you could have done it, put your 2 dormers in, and for the same price, they would have ended up with something like this, right? Who has the better return on their investment? Exactly. Right? So this is really, really what I'm trying to hint at here. Anybody have any questions on what they're seeing right here? Here's a couple more. Yes, sir. An unusually strong structure? Actually not. This is a complete restructuring of the house altogether. So what we're actually doing, do you see where these little A-frame pieces are? We actually have putting in a new beam up in the ceiling that's actually supporting the roof from the top, rather than creating a roof that's held up by the ceiling joist at the bottom. All right, again, and I don't expect that anybody really actually knows the best way to do this as a homeowner. And I don't even, I've been a general contractor in the past as well. And even though over time you do learn these types of things as a contractor, I wouldn't just rely on your contractor to connect the dots between creating what a new structural layout would be, because he may not be taking into consideration the steps further down the road of really how we make the space actually function. Okay? So again, finding someone that can help identify this canvas right out of the gate sets you up for success all the way through the process. So this is a great question. So she's asking, so who is this type of person that answers this question, right? This is a great question. So again, It's not to say that your local designer or that your local architect or your local engineer couldn't do this. What this does is actually start to bring in several disciplines at once, right? Because when we design things, we actually really look at the cost analysis of really what it is that we're doing, how we're doing it economically, structurally, right? So knowing the actual economics of, you know, how we can change space structurally and how much it will actually cost, and then the overall vision of what it's actually going to turn into when it's done. So we actually do this all in-house ourselves. However, typically I would probably start more with an architect than just with a local designer first, even if it's just on like an hourly consulting basis, right? Because typically, it doesn't even mean that an architect has all the experience to do it, but typically an architect that does have some experience is going to understand some of these cross disciplines a little bit more closely. Does that make sense? Okay. Pretty cool though, right? All right, let's look at some more examples. If y'all see any pictures as I'm kind of strolling through that you're interested in or want to have a question about, just raise your hand. Same bedroom. All of these. Just kind of a walk around, shower. Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you can't see something for some reason, just help yourself do. Okay, so let's look at another example. Nothing too overwhelmingly excited to start with, right? What do we have here? This is the 50s ranch. How did I get up where? I put in a staircase. Full staircase. Okay, now let's just talk, let's acclimate ourselves with the type of structure we're dealing with here. I think I'm going to be good at this. Now, when you walk through the front door, what room are you in? Yes! The most worthless excuse of a room in a 1,200 square foot house that ever existed, right? Who are we kidding, right? What are we preparing ourselves for? Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot, right? This is the room with maybe the grandfather clock, maybe an old little broken down console table and a mirror and a dusty fake plant, right? Waste of space. Exactly. So you walk in there, when you turn right, you're in this kind of somewhat large room. What is it filled with? Furniture you can't sit on. Exactly. See, I don't even have to really give you guys the answer. That is what that room is for, right? Maybe you can go in and maybe you can't. Maybe it was hand-me-down furniture that just kind of, you know, you just don't even necessarily want it, but you feel guilty about giving it away, but nobody actually goes in there because it's not connected. The other spaces, like the little bitty dining room that's too small, and then in the back right corner of the house, you have the little bitty teeny kitchen. Everybody knows this, right? And then on the back, as you go, you know, counterclockwise through, what's the last room? It's the den. It's where everything happens, right? Maybe it looks like this, right? It's covered with wood paneling, maybe. I don't know. Which is a very, very completely polarizing material, right? You either love this or you hate this, and there's a specific age that just kind of flip-flops. So this is what happens. This is actually for a young couple I was renovating this house for, and it was the house she grew up in. Her dad loved the paneling. She hated it. She wanted to take it down, so I took it down and gave it to him. He loved it. He loved it. He used it for his own things. Okay, so what I did is actually I came up with a way of transitioning the most common type of residential architecture in the Southeast United States, which is the brick ranch, right? Oftentimes what you deal with when you have this brick ranch is you have that center support wall, right? Let's go back and let's look at what we're dealing with, right? So in this main body of the house, and then you have the bedrooms down there. Maybe it's a split level, maybe the ranch just continues, but it's the same layout, right? So typically what you have in these low-slung roofed ranches is you have this living room situation on front and then the kitchen and the other living room on the back side, separated by that center support wall, which, you know, has become the infamous load-bearing wall, right? That becomes so overwhelmingly complicated to deal with, right? This is the deal. This is the most simple type of structure there is, and it is so overwhelmingly simple to open this type of space up. However, I'll show you examples of how I do completely open spaces up. However, in this particular instance, I didn't take that wall in the center down to solve my problem. What you're going to actually notice is, on average, these living rooms in the front and the back of the house are typically between 12 and 15 feet deep. And what happens when people start to renovate these and even maybe conjoin two rooms and try to put a kitchen in, by the time you put the cabinets on that back central wall, It's just that horrible, non-magical dimension left that makes it this no man's land where you can't put an island or a table or a boat or anything before you hit that side wall. And that's what makes it so complicated. So the solution to this that I came up with is actually recessing the cabinets inside that center support wall and maintaining that whole 12 to 15 foot amount of space through the width. It's really going to help the whole entire function of what we're dealing with. So this is what we did. We joined these two rooms together, and then we did this. All right, what do you notice? Oh, just soaking it in. So the old kitchen was back there, on the far side, and this forefront space here was where all that wood paneling was. So I took that center wall down between the living room and the kitchen. I made it linear across the back, and look what I did in the back porch. Right? You can even see, if you look in the back, some of that same old kind of basket weave brick, right? We didn't just demo and start from scratch, we really worked things in together. What kind of door is this in the back of the house? It's not a sliding door. It's not one of those accordion doors. If y'all price those, they probably maybe even somebody selling them here. If y'all looked into the price of some of these accordion style doors, you know what I'm talking about? On average, take a wild guess. You haven't. Again, this is just for shock value. Oh yeah, even more than that. So for a 12-foot, oh yeah, this is an exterior, weatherproof, insulated opening. My solution was, and the typical solution for something like this is one of these, accordion-style folding doors that you'll see that are very popular. But on average, for a 12-foot wide opening, standard door height, throw out a number of what a price point for one of those, just the door units would cost.
10,000.
12 to 15,000. Crazy, right? With an overall budget of 45,000, that wasn't in the cards, right? Welcome to reality, right? So what do we do? Typically when I'm not gonna spend, almost a third of my budget on this one unit. It would be irresponsible to do that. So what did I do to be able to still get the level of connectivity with a solution that wasn't necessarily available right off the shelf? What type of solution did I end up with? It is a garage door, but what's missing? What do you not see? The tracks, right? If you're inside your garage in the interior space, typically there's tracks overhead. Or if there is a kind of an ultra loft, kind of very modern industrial space, sometimes you'll see those. But I just spent all this money to take out the ceiling, open it all the way up, kind of have this nice open air. I didn't want to have these ugly tracks hanging, right? So I asked the question that I think is one of the most powerful questions you can ask of your designers, of yourselves when you're doing these renovations is, what if, I didn't have to have those ugly tracks right there. Right? Most people just kind of pause there and stall out and just be like, I can't go buy it right off the shelf this weekend. It's just not possible, right? But that's what we spent that 80% of our time doing at the beginning, right? That I talked about before. So my question was, what if I could just take a garage door and turn it around backwards and have it open outside, right? Now clearly there's some challenges for that, right? They're not made to do that, but in just 3 hours I was able to solve the 3 issues that actually raises. The first is making sure that it's sealed and that it's weather tight. The second is making sure that it's secure, right? And that you can actually lock it appropriately. And the third is if you actually leave it open, right? And say, not here, but in a lot of parts of the country, if there's where there can be crazy rains, but if snow hits it, right? These doors aren't made to hold weight, right? In that dimension, so when it's outside, so how to figure out a way of creating some type of safety mechanism to support this door outside. But again, in under 3 hours, we were able to solve all of those problems, right? So again, don't let the initial kind of rush of, I don't know how to do this, stop you holding your tracks. Really kind of suss it out. So what I did is actually put a trellis on the outside and mortised in all those tracks inside, so you don't even see the tracks on the outside. But this is so cool because when you open your door, you actually have a glass rooftop on the outside patio anytime you want. And for a home with as limited a square footage as this is revolutionary for this space. Now we have the center island. Now those are the cabinets that we actually recessed in the wall, right? What do you notice about this island? Anything shocking?
looks like cement.
Well, besides the material, there's nothing underneath. What do you guys think about that? You think that was a mistake? This is a small 50s ranch, right? I just ripped it out, put it in a new kitchen. I would argue that if I talked to you guys individually, just asking you a question without showing you this picture, and I said, hey, we're gonna put an island in, do you want cabinets in the island? Yes, absolutely, right? If there's a possibility for storage, I wanna put in storage, right? This is another one of the hugest mistakes people do. Absolutely cripple the feel and the livability of your space. Now, again, you're saying that you need storage because you just think you need it, right? Because your stuff right now maybe isn't organized and you can, hey, you can always use more space, right? However, this is what I would recommend all of you guys. This would be a great exercise for you to do even if you're not doing a renovation, but especially if you're about to redo your kitchen. This could save you thousands and tens of thousands of dollars, which is what we did here. Is take out everything from your kitchen one weekend. Again, you're going to be like, Chef, no, seriously, we don't have time for this. I'm telling you, there's going to be a reason for this in a minute. Kind of clear out maybe a room right next to your kitchen. Take every single, everything, pots, pans, glasses, even the things that you're like, oh, I'm just going to put that right back in. No, don't let your husband say that. Take it out. Take it out. Don't let your wife say that. Take it out and set it. Immediately, what we're finding is on average, you're going to find 20% of the volume of that stuff is not needed anymore. It's either trash, it's duplicate, or it doesn't work anymore. That's just you know, I'm not having to convince you guys of that, right? Second, after that, what you do is you actually start grouping functions together, right? This is not rocket science, but people don't do this. Group functions together, and then you take those functional groupings and you say, you know what, I need to figure out a way of putting this functional grouping into this cabinet. And then the challenge and the effort comes to what type of storage solution is going to be best for that particular cabinet to store this grouping of items. What you're going to find is if you put your items back in the cabinets that way, you're going to save overall 30% of your overall volume of cabinets. Now you're like, okay, Chip, that's a nice story. Why does that really matter? You know, I'm just trying to create as many cabinets as I can. Well, have you ever priced new cabinets out? It will shock you. It's crazy, right? Where the rubber hits the road here is imagine your cabinet bid comes back and then you take 30% off of it. Now we're talking a real reason to do this. This is what we did here, right? So oftentimes this translates into not having to have as many upper cabinets, right? Or maybe you do other different solutions that are maybe open shelving if you like that, or if you don't, maybe you're removing some of the lower cabinets to be able to get more of a sense of volume and openness. There's a real rationale to this, and that's a great discipline thing to try. It's really, really worth the time. Cool? Any questions on this one? Any plugs? There are. So I actually custom made this center island. This is one of our custom projects that we did. If you actually look on top, there's actually a sink and a cooktop inside the island, and there's plugs as well. But all the utilities and the drains and everything actually molded into the countertop itself, and then it comes down through these legs on the side so you don't actually see it. It is concrete. That's actually the garage door when it's down. All insulated glass and aluminum. And none of these pictures, first of all, every single picture I show you, they're all going to be different styles. We're not known for kind of replicating the same style over and over and over again because we respond to what the homeowners want, right? But what you will see universally with everything that we design is the canvas, the functionality, and the personality is there for every single client, and then we weave in that last 20% of aesthetic to specifically fit the needs of whatever client we're working with. So if you don't like the style of some of these, that's completely fine. I don't either. We did it for our clients specifically. But what is universal is these spaces really, really work. And when you're in them, they feel right. And they're happy with them years after. There's another main door kind of further into like where those walls are. It is the existing fireplace. I didn't even take it out, right? We worked with it. Because I actually like the feeling of that brick on the inside, and you actually see some of that old brick on the outside, right? So it's molding. Like this is arguably very kind of modern feeling in a 50s ranch with speckled brown brick, right? But somehow, again, making the aesthetic work out is actually the easy part. So many people are so insecure about that they're so just ingrained in finding this inspiration imagery and just trying to replicate it and just jam it into their architecture where it doesn't work instead of actually designing something, right? And whether or not you're comfortable with that or not, finding somebody that can really, really help you do that and establish what that canvas is at the beginning, it ends up, even if that costs something, it's going to end up saving you a lot more money in the end. It's just a discipline to do it. Yes? They're 24. Standard depth cabinets, and what we actually did is I transferred, I didn't show any pictures of this, but as I actually ended up having to put a beam across the top. So this is actually that support wall. So I still put the same type of structure as taking the wall out up over those cabinets, but it's still on the same load plane. I still have the same, I didn't have to put in any extra foundational features up underneath. I literally just put in almost like a case opening, right? Built a wall section in the back and recessed those cabinets in. Now, yes, that did go into that other living room in the front, but guess what? Nobody was using that room anyways, let's be honest. And I designed that space to actually become a complete living room arrangement. And that was very, very simple to do. So now we actually didn't have to, we got rid of the dining room and that old useless living room in the front and joined it into actual living space. And then on the other side was the kitchen and the eat-in area. Cool. So we have the bar seating in the bar. We actually had extra dining. No duplicate dining. Because again, if you're in a 1,200 square foot house, you really don't have enough room for multiple areas to dine. Yes, sir. The span.
Is there any down supports in that whole span?
No, there's not supports in that whole span actually. This was a simple, that's the beauty. If you live in a 50s ranch, there's just not that much going on with the structure. This is dimensional lumber that we're supporting this with. It's a low slung roof, there's not a lot of load. You're not needing to bring in ridiculously excessive large beams to do this type of thing. Again, it's just a misconception that people have. This is very simple to do. Incredibly simple. Cool? Awesome. All right, let's look at another example. Okay.
That's the big one.
Right? Some people are silent because they're like, wow, this looks like my kitchen. Right? So this lady, I shared this example because this is really where we get into not just creating a canvas of a space, but really personalizing it. This is another huge, huge difference, right? So this was the Carroll residence. And Miss Carroll came to me, she said, Chip, I just really want something amazing, right? I have all these Pinterest boards and I would love it to look like this. I was like, hold on a second. I need to learn about you, I need to learn about what you're about, what you want to do. Ladies, typically, after this kind of extensive interview process we go through, we can typically narrow you guys down to about 5 adjectives, right? Which is good. I mean, there's things that your personality, maybe some of your best hobbies, things that really just kind of, maybe you're an entertainer, maybe you're, maybe you're a neat freak, maybe you love to cook. I don't know, all these different things. But through the course of this kind of interview process that we do with our company, we do narrow you guys down to about 5 adjectives. Guys, we're a little bit more simple. Typically, we can narrow us down to about 2 or 3. Okay? Now, Miss Carroll, one of her adjectives that really described her actually was bacon. She loved to bake, and that was one of the things that bothered her so much about her existing kitchen, is that she said, you know what, all I want to do is have all my girlfriends over and their kids, have them around some type of table or something, and let's bake something. She was head of the Girl Scout, all that type of stuff. She did all the bake sales. But she's like, this kitchen is not letting me do that, right? So again, I could just blindly make a better universal design kitchen, snag something off of a beautiful image and just try to jam it into this space. It's probably going to be more expensive, right? Or it's going to be the same price, but that means you can't do all those things that you wanted to do, right? Because that's the reality. Instead of really looking at what the structure is that we're dealing with here. So let's look a little bit about what we have. So we have a little bit of kitchen. On the other side is this really dark living room. So you can kind of see the little chair arrangement. On the right side of that far room, there's actually a fireplace. And then to this side is actually this little screened-in porch. So you can actually see that's kind of looking back into the kitchen. This is that living room, right? And then this was kind of this little tacked-on porch that they ended up just putting windows on, kind of like a little sunroof. Now, again, I'm going to ask you the same question. Say you had $65,000, you had 3 weeks, and rough information that I've given you about this homeowner, what would you do here? See, it's hard. This is my job. This is what we do. It's what you call me. Okay. So let's start talking. What's the first thing that we're really going to do is start when we approach a project like this? We're going to create the canvas, right? How can we most cost effectively engineer the square footage into an aspect ratio that provides us the most options to do something impactful? Even before we know what that impact is, what would you do? Would you open up some of these doorways a little bit? Would you take a wall down? I don't know, you tell me. Which one would you do? What do you see as in your way?
This for the kitchen.
This wall here in between this kitchen? Okay, so which one would you take out? You take out both. Right, I like this lady's spirit. She's feeling empowered, right? Does that scare anybody? Do you think that's actually possible? See, so this lady's worried about the load-bearing wall, right? Because anytime we talk to our contractor, whatever, we're like, oh, that one's load-bearing, right? Right? And we get scared like that is like the impenetrable surface, right? There is not one wall in any structure ever built, commercial or residential of any scale, anywhere in the world, that cannot be taken down and replaced with another alternative piece of structure. Right? I'm telling you, it might not be the cheapest thing to do, but it is absolutely possible. So anybody that says it just can't be done is just either they don't know what they're talking about or they're just too lazy to figure it out. Right? But this is coming from a structural engineer who's done this for a long time, right? This is a huge piece. It should be the first piece that you guys are looking at every single time you're creating this canvas. Typically what people would do, if I didn't kind of prod them with the right answer beforehand, what they would say is, you know what, we're probably going to take down a good portion of this wall and maybe open up another one of these door frames. Because for $60,000, I'm probably going to run out of money, and my contractor's saying this is going to get expensive, right? What does that do? It really limits our ability to do things in the space. What if I told you, similar to that dormer situation in the first example, where I opened up the entire space for the same price as putting in two 8-foot dormers, structurally speaking. What if I told you that I could open up and take out all of these walls, every single one for the same price as putting in two 12-foot openings, right? All of a sudden you're like, well, hey, I might be able to come up with a cool layout if I had those options, right? You do. You do. You just have to know that that's actually an option to begin with. So for the same price as two 12-foot openings, we turn this into this. Right? Totally possible. You just have to know what you're doing, right? Let's talk about personalization. Yes? Yes. What's the rest of the house look like?
Is that the same house?
Good question.
That's the same
So actually, this house is similar to the other. You see that kind of trellis pattern? Those are actually acrylic panels. Through that is actually a living room on the other side. So there is, you can't actually see through, but it still has a separate function. You can't see it in this picture. You'll probably see it in another section. We didn't address the bedrooms. We didn't do any of this. But what you never see on any of these shows, and most shows do not do this, what we do with every single one of my series is I actually do what's called a master plan design. And this is really where we get where the rubber hits the road. Realistically speaking, everybody wants to be able to do their whole house. Guess who can do that? Like a fraction of a percent of people. Right? Even people with tons of money, typically their eyes are all, the ideal of what they want to do, right, is always bigger than what you can actually do with cash in hand or what's a responsible decision. However, the most responsible thing to do is to design out all the different spaces that you ever think that you may ever address. We call that the master plan design, right? So for all of these shows that we do, I actually design out the entire property, exterior and interior, for what I feel is the best possible situation and outcome for that structure. And then typically what we're doing is phase one, right? So we're actually attacking one part of the house, and then we give it back to the homeowners. They have a full guide and a full plan for every subsequent phase or step along the way. And then that's life. That's how this works, right? Then you can save for the next step and do it. What do we oftentimes do? We save up money. Maybe we do the kitchen one year. We got a raise or whatever. Now, honey, we're going to do the dining room because that bothers me in a sense. Oh, but you know what? Now that I'm looking at the dining room, wouldn't it have been really nice if I could have done this? And half the time we start ripping stuff out that we just did, or we compromise, which is a mistake, or it's wasting money, right? That's where we go wrong. So having this master plan design right out of the gate, right, it makes sense, right? You know where every single dollar goes. It is all towards improvement, no goal. That's the way to do it, right? But a lot of us get a little bit too trigger happy, right? We just like to jump in there because we got the pile of 2x4s ready to rock in the garage on a free weekend, right? You're going to end up saving yourself a lot of time by pausing and then attacking it, right? Because arguably, even though I do this for a living, I'm doing anywhere between 5 and 7 of these episodes at once. So I really don't have any room to screw up, right? And if it was faster to just go in there and just kind of wing it, I would probably have evolved into doing it. But after doing this for 10 straight years and more than 1,000 projects, I have a system that really works, that absolutely gives you repeatable and predictable outcomes that homeowners are happy with for a long period of time. Cool? All right, so let's talk about, what did I say Miss Carol, one of her big adjectives was?
She was a baker.
She was a baker, right?
Look at that guy.
So what does that mean? Well, I asked her, what is your perfect, like, utopia moment, you know, in baking? I don't know. I mean, I like to cook, but I'm way too busy. You know, we eat out constantly. So thinking of spending 2 hours baking a cake is like, oh my gosh. You know, but for her, that was what she loved to do, right? She says, this is what I want. I want everything in close proximity to me, because I was like, what kind of kills that whole experience for you? She's like, well, it's when I have to kind of walk over here to get the ingredients, and then my pantry, I hate it because it's all over there, and I have to go get this, and then I come back over here, and then I have to lift the mixer out, and I have to put it out here, and by then I'm kind of tired, and everybody's losing interest, and the whole party dies, right? So I was like, okay, you're not actually asking me for something specific, but I'm reading into this. What if we had everything we needed right at your fingertips? We didn't have to go anywhere. That's a great what-if question, right? So I just came up with a solution for it. That's where I spent 80% of the time not worried about what the aesthetic is, right? That's the easy part. That's going to happen. There's tons of talent out there that can make a space look pretty, pick a nice material. The talent pool of people that actually can create a canvas that's workable, that's not just a beautiful picture, is much smaller, right? So look, you kind of see a little bit about what's going on here in the background. So let's look at this. This was actually still the fireplace is there. There's still a fireplace in the kitchen, actually, right beside. You actually can see the fireplace to the left, that orange baker's oven to the right, and this little conglomerate here. Behind it, if you walk around this island, it's a walk-around pantry, all right? So this is kind of a cool, way different concept. You probably won't see this in 99% of anything that you see, right? But that's the whole point, right? Because it's custom designed for this specific layout. Now what she's going to be able to do is go, there's these 2 full-height cabinet doors on the backside, that green color. She's able to open up. She actually has a small refrigerator underneath for whatever she needs for her baking, for those needs, all her dry goods. And there's a big shelf unit inside there. She's actually able to take all of her ingredients from her recipe and just load up this shelf, right? And then pull down this big drawbridge, which happens to be a custom designed table that bolts down 9 feet long with no legs, like this. And then pull out this storage shelf with all of her ingredients she just put in it and all of her appliances already plugged in. And what can she do? She can stand there with everything to arm's reach and 12 of whoever she wants right around her doing what they want to do, right? It takes away all of those distractions and it just solves the problem. All right, now guys, if you're thinking, okay, this is baking. This same concept works perfect out in your workshop, out in your garage where you have your cars in there and all your tools are slammed up against the walls and you have to do this number to get in your car and you're banging into all your stuff all the time. This is a space mechanism that is just workable, all right? So again, this type of concept, imagine you had a big work table that could just come down, fold down, right? This is a custom piece of hardware that I worked with a specific company to create. create that's all completely neutrally buoyant. This table's like almost 300 pounds. But in the reveal, the grandmother, who was 85 years old, grabs it and just pulls it down easy as can be. Because at any point it just stays completely weightless. And then when it comes down, there's no legs, right? And then you can sit right on the end of it, right? So this doubles as a dining, extra seating for dining, right? Actually, if you look here, those two banquettes that are in the corner, when that drawbridge comes down, those two things are on rollers and they come to make benches on both sides. But then after dinner, say you're done with the table, those fold away, the drawbridge, get your grandma to do it, that's fine. Just put it right up. Now what do you have? You have square footage that's open and versatile right in your kitchen. This is something that hardly anyone has access to, but you can do all kinds of different things with this, right? This can be where you roll out of some fabric or do a project, build something with your grandkids, or do anything that you want to do, right? All in the same proximity where you're doing things anyways. This revolutionizes the way life actually happens. And again, this isn't what you're finding in new construction homes. Why is that? Because new construction in most architecture tries to mass appeal, right? But everybody's story is different. And so that's where design actually helps you, right? And it can transform lifestyle. Where are we on time? We got about 10 minutes, sorry. I'm a talker. This whole project again was about $70,000. But it's really, really high end. And again, a little bit unorthodox as well. There's actually a fireplace. You're actually looking at a recess where there's actually banquette kind of seating, almost like a little sitting room right within. But then there was two islands. There was a table island and a work surface island. So if you actually look here, you actually see this one island has the sink in it and the cooktop. The other one's at the same height. It's just hollow up underneath. Looks like it's the table, but it's also at an elevated work surface. And you also have another table, right? This kitchen can seat like 17 people. And this is, again, the photography is nice and wide angle, but this isn't as big of a space as it seems. Okay? But again, most people's homes, it's not about having excessive square footage. It's about making the most of the square footage you have. You have so many more options that you can do. But don't get the cart ahead of the horse. Take that canvas, right? Engineer it to be the best economical solution to the square footage, and then attack the function. Don't worry about the aesthetic. Be patient. It happens. It will happen. That's the easy part. Okay? Any other questions on this one before we move to the next one? Alright. See, now we're picking up some steam. This is good. Y'all are starting to drink the Kool-Aid. This is good. Obviously, just craftsmanship in general, when you're dealing with this stuff, simple is better. Use simple and quality materials. That is just like a undergirding of what we do constantly, and it gives us the best results. There's not a whole ton of, look at this kitchen. There's not a whole lot of different things going on when you're in there. Everything you're in close proximity to and you touch is high end, right? There's craftsmanship to it, it's warm, it's fantastic. Okay, I'm going to blast past some of these. Pretty cool. See, this is what we get. A client just came to me and said, Chip, I trust you. Make something awesome in my backyard. I like to read, I have a kid, and we want to entertain. I said, okay. Cool stuff, right? That's a 27-foot diameter pavilion. It's all perfect. There's a fire in there at night. I mean, it takes you to a different place, right? It has all the different accoutrements of outdoor living. It has your hardscape, it has your fire features. It has all your outdoor living. It has grass space. It's kind of a trifecta, right? This pod that you see in the background there, far end, looks like it's actually made it feel more like a tree house for the daughter, but that was the reading pod. That was for mom to go out there, climb up in, and just kind of escape. But then this was actually, this is all Austrian spruce. It's all wood. We milled out roughly 14,000 pieces, and they were all the same. There was, I think, 75 different sizes, all pre-milled, machined, and pre-finished before we put them together. Right? So let me tell you this. So I did this. Materials, $20,000. There's some labor going on, and let me remind you, how many episodes do I have going on at once? 5 to 7 at once. This was just one of those going on at once in 3 weeks. It can be done. Was it easy? No, but you can push through for a little bit, right? This actually was one of the most miraculous final products. One of the most inexpensive costs, but the design was so strong, right? Okay, so a question is, we probably get tons of projects thrown to us. How do we pick them? Well, first of all, only a very, very small percentage are actually, doing projects for us. But we actually, with our company, the same team that does these TV shows, we offer the same exact service nationwide. Nationwide. We do only about 20% of our business is even in the Southeast. We cast off the website. Right now we're in Atlanta. If we're shooting here, you guys are going to know before we get here. So nobody freak out and be like, oh my gosh, I need to go, submit and cast my house to be on the show. It's just, it's a small percentage that ends up getting, and it's not even always my prerogative on who it is, the network reviews. There's a lot of different hoops to jump through. It can happen, it certainly can, but if you're tired of waiting and you want these level of results, you can still get them. Absolutely, and we offer consulting, we offer full architecture and design. We don't do any construction in-house any longer, but that's because we partner with local building outfits. We will help source and help vet out and help manage that entire process and deliver the full design and permittable construction document set to you wherever you are. So it's a great thing. So before I forget, if you do ever have questions on that, you can always reach out to me directly. I always give out my personal email. You can reach me at chipwade@gmail.com. Pretty easy, right? No punctuation, no caps, chipwade@gmail.com. I answer all those myself. If you want to inquire just about a question in general, or if you want any help with any of your projects, we're open and we're available. You can, absolutely. Yeah, whatever works. Sound good? All right, let's look at one more before we wrap it up. Do I have a second one? All right, we got 5 minutes. 5 minutes. I can talk for a long time. I have almost one of them. Yes. This may be something fun for you guys with our Florida boats. I leave this one in here because this is the first pool I ever designed 7 years ago. But there's a lot of interesting things that I derived out of this process because I really took it straight back to the drawing board and said, how do we improve the infamous animal that is basically prolific all over the place and just gets repeated over and over again. Now what you're seeing here might not look that revolutionary. There's a lot going on, right? This isn't a free-form organic shape pool. We do a lot of those too. This is, if you can imagine, the most basic rectangular cross-section, which typically is the most cost-effective for a pool, right? What are we doing? When I went out to this property, I said, okay, that's fine, good. Let's put a pool in. But when I started designing it out, I noticed, you know what, this is taking up so much space. And in most parts of the country, a pool is good for, like maybe 8 months of the year, not year-round, right? And where a pool typically is located is in the absolute primo square footage of lawn or in proximity to the house. Did anybody else just get a huge whiff of something amazing? What does that smell? No, it's like meat. Sorry. I'm gonna have to cut this short, guys. This smells really good. So what I noticed is I want to make this square footage that this pool is taking up be as multi-purpose as possible, right? How can I not just suck all that primo square footage and just throw it away for one function? So I came up with a pool that does several different things, okay? So let's look at actually what we're dealing with. This was the starting position, okay? Look at what we have here. On this left-hand side, we actually have a portion that's actually a completely stationary built-in deck. It's actually within the coping. Everybody know what coping is? You see these long concrete lines on the side, the edge of the pool, right? So those actually extend all the way around and actually built a deck flush in with the coping of the pool. It's actually on grade. It's not actually dug out up underneath there. However, half of this deck platform does something different, right? So in this position, this is kind of reality, right? This is kind of you're getting ready for dinner. You want to have enough places to maybe put up some extra tables, have some nice seating area, right? Then after dinner, what happens? Typically the function of your property changes in outdoor living as the time transitions or as the time of year transitions. platforms that would extend out like this. And when they extend out, they reveal an underground fire feature. Now you're like, okay, that's kind of cool, but let's like functionally, why does this actually make a lot of sense? Anybody that has had a party that, you know, has a fire pit kind of open in the backyard. I've done this too. I had this in my old house. It's great. We all love to go out there. But guess what happens to the ladies when it's a little bit too cold, right? After about 10 minutes, they're like, oh, all right, I'm going back inside. It's cold out here, right? To get a fire pit that actually puts out enough heat to make it comfortable for all of us to stay out on a brisk evening in the winter, you need to have on average a 6 to 8 foot diameter fire pit to be able to get a big enough fire to actually put out enough heat to make it comfortable. Most of us don't do that. Most of us are putting out a little 4-foot ring or something like that, right? In theory, the feature's there, but it's not actually working. What happens is you can get away with a little bit more of a scale or smaller fire feature if it's close to structure, right? Where you get a little bit of bounced radiant heat that cuts the wind down. Or if you're doing something like this that actually pushes it down where you're sitting around it and the cross breeze goes over you, right? And it actually has a little pocket of heat. This actually becomes much, much more functional and scale some of our fire features down a little bit. Now again, a fire feature is one of those things that we're not necessarily using all the time, right? So why make it a huge destination over there, that actually divides the party out, right? Why not keep it still in primo proximity, right next to the house where everybody's gonna go, but then be able to have that square footage do something else. Look at these platforms. They also provide gangplanks, little walkways across the water for circulation through the yard. It's super fun for kids, you can imagine, right? And then look at what the planks do is they go all the way down to the hot tub at the very end. This is another thing that happens with parties. There's hot tub people and there's not hot tub people, am I right? Right? And when it's time to, hey, let's get in the hot tub, some people are like, I just don't really want to do that. Or maybe there's so many people that want to do it that only 8 or 10 people, if you're lucky to have a huge one, can get in. What this pool allows you to do. Now you can pull up 15 more lawn chairs in close proximity, put it right across one of those gangplanks, and the party can just transition and people can still stay together, right? So many people say, you know, we did this beautiful backyard and our parties, they just seem to kind of fizzle out. Honey, is it us? You know, are we just not, you know? And really, it might not be you guys. It may be your design that's actually letting you down, okay? So again, simple concept, but we're doing to be very intentional in how this pool works. Neither, right? How do the planks move? There's actually, what I did is I designed what's called a double coping. You can actually see there's the top shelf, and then there's a bottom, second shelf. These planks actually translate on these. They're basically glorified casters. They're a very specific kind that don't corrode, and there's a soft coating on them. They were actually, the core casters were, you know, about $400 total to get for the platform. But if you're putting in a pool, like, it's not, it was a value for the mechanism that it provided. And then there's little, actually, you can't really see, there's actually little pockets, little keys, and 2 little push sticks. You just stick it in the little key in the platform and just do it from one side. And even the small daughter that was a little bitty girl, she just gets it going and those things just roll. There's guides on both sides that just translate seamlessly back and forth. And then they can lock into place. Pretty cool. Again, not that now that you're looking at this, it's not that it's that revolutionary, but why are people not doing this? Why are people not customizing just a little bit, right? This doesn't make it so personalized to make something unsellable. You do it really quality and it's very, very thoughtful, right? What's worse, like some of you didn't see at the beginning, we saw a graphic with basically how you're getting return on investment, and none of the numbers were even close to 100%. It's because people are not doing really, really thoughtful quality work. They're taking inspiration imagery and just trying to jam it into your house. And that's what y'all are doing too. Y'all are seeing that pretty picture and be like, oh honey, that's what I want. How can I put that and put it into here? You're so focused on the aesthetic, and a lot of these rooms, they don't actually work. They might look good, and that's your best, or your kind of best case scenario in the situation. All right, I'm gonna just flutter through the last couple of pictures just so y'all can see some things. So if it spurs any questions, you guys can reach out to me at any point. Panels, they were powder coated steel and then composite on top. So whether it's salt water, fresh water, doesn't matter. Chlorine, it's not gonna deteriorate. I mean, 100%. Again, this isn't a commercially available product, but I'll tell you exactly how I did it. You know, we have the plans for it too. This could be something. I worked with a pool company actually built this pool, but it's not what they designed, right? They were like, what? I had to stay there like the whole way because even though it looks simple, there's a lot of intricate detailing that needed to be created to This is a project that I did that actually transitioned a living room to outdoor living space, and I made the furniture actually translate from the inside to the outside. Right? Because I get tired of having an outdoor living furniture just getting faded, sun damaged, and pooped on by the birds, right? Because outdoor living furniture, if you buy nice stuff, can be very expensive. What's the percentage that it's in great working order when your company comes over? Like never, right? It's so frustrating, right? So when I was designing this space for this client, I was looking out at mine outside and seeing it being rained on. I'm just like, what if I could just store my inside furniture inside, right? That was a great question to ask. Well, how do you do that? I don't know, it's not available. Don't squash that idea. Think on it, think on it, think on it. This is what I came up with. So I came up with an idea to make one piece of furniture that actually goes into a sectional couch or multiple love seats that actually rotates from the outside to the inside of the house. So it actually acts as the furniture for the interior space and the exterior ones. The track system goes to the floor. Furniture splits apart, rotates inside and outside. Right? Worked like a dream. And arguably, the custom furniture that I built for this was nicer than any of the other two that I would have bought anyways. And I only had to make one. So I had more money to do it. Pretty cool, right? Right here. Last one. Sorry. I'll just kind of describe what's going on here. I did another multi-purpose bed here. And it actually transitioned out to create more of like a sleeping porch in front of this sucker, or in front of this opening in the master bedroom. But I built a custom headboard that actually stayed put behind to hold all those pillows that all you ladies like to have on the bed, right? What happens every night? Onto the floor, right? That bothers me, right? Let's come up with a solution. So I did. So now this bed platform rotates out. The headboard, which actually you can see here actually is like a couch situation. It moves forward, the bed goes behind, and the couch recaps it again, creating a sitting room inside the same room. And provides some privacy for the bed. Instead of buying potentially an overpriced piece of master bedroom furniture, again, what if I could just respond to a couple of things that the homeowners wanted, because when I went shopping for a master bedroom suite, I couldn't get what I wanted for the price, right? So instead of getting all down and out about it, that's my key to say, you know what, maybe this is the spot, it should be a little bit more creative. Sound good? All right, I'm over time, but guys, thank you guys so much for coming. I'm actually going to be over at the New South Windows booth after this to answer any questions you have. Again, email address chipway@gmail.com if I can have it be of assistance. Otherwise, you guys enjoy your rest of your summer.